Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Brace for Impact. Benny is on the far side. We have a special guest in the middle. I mentioned that they would be here last week. It is Affinity. Affinity, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. It is a pleasure to be here with you both. And yeah, I'm super excited. It's been a really interesting week, and it's going to be a really interesting week going into, of course, the next 7 days as well. So I got lucky with the one I got invited to here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you were just explaining your week coming up of like how much stuff you've
Oh
got
God,
you've got
yeah.
coming up, and we're like, wow, I guess we picked the right episode at the right time.
yeah. I was gonna say, this is the first time we've had a guest on for the full BFI episode since Megs.
Yeah.
So there you
I'm
go.
honored.
You're
I'm
you're
honored.
you're you're up there with the great Megs, who
I'll take second place.
I still have the command in my chat, by the way. So in my
Amazing.
Twitch chat, yeah, the 360 no scope back across the ocean.
Oh yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
So never forget that. But anyway, let's get into it. We do have a bit of the news. We're going to start with the news, a little bit of the news, and that's just a few basically housekeeping items. I really want to call them, right. And that's that D7 has left X Guild. Obviously, we know Guild have dropped the team. We know that actually, you had mentioned that the Bad News Eagles actually were going to wind up getting dropped. That
Yeah.
was the rumor. That news came official today. But on the women's side, D7's left the actual makeup of X Guild. So free agent going into next season. I would imagine there's going to be quite. If I'm in the impact scene and I need a player, definitely one I'm looking at. I think she's really got a lot of skill. Guild were we talked about it the last episode. Parks. They were kind of like those bottom feeders where they were really hanging around the bottom the first few seasons they were in Impact, and then D7 comes in. They look completely different. They almost get a spot. Not quite, because obviously I think they needed a little bit more.
They lost two matches
It
that they needed to
was
win.
yeah. They were in the I casted that actually. It was the decider game, and it was so close. And yeah,
Yeah.
just couldn't get it over the line.
Yeah, and then I think they won in the tiebreakers or something like that.
Yeah.
Which okay,
Yeah.
consolation, woo, but still, it was one of those things where like they definitely were competitive this season, right? So, D7 had a lot to do with that, obviously, and now she's a free agent, available for pickup for any of the teams going to the season 6. So that is going to be really interesting, I think, to see going forward once we get into the off season. But second piece of news, because we do want to get to what the main episode is about,
Yeah.
and that's Oxyset has joined Permita. So we talked Oxyset, obviously the former Ents player, um, joining Permita, and Permita look all right. They look like they're picking up a few decent pieces. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a team that makes a really strong contention for season 6. I think they're going to be pretty tough come the qualifiers with what they've been able to do.
I don't have any other notes on that one. It was just
It's
hype.
I
Okay, fair
with
enough.
with the off season quickly though, because the off season is really long this time because we've gone from 3 seasons in the year to two, and I'm not fully sure how that's going to affect teams and orgs just yet. So you see like guilds pulling out a little bit as well, and you saw the likes of um who else was it, Virtus Pro and stuff. Is if your teams don't look like they're going to qualify, you then have an impact team that might be playing in cash cups, but you don't have an impact league and you don't have that sort of publicity solidly for 6 months now.
Yeah.
So if you've not got like a really competitive team or a team that is playing and winning cash cups, it feels like a lot of orgs are just like, it's just not worth it right now. And with so long of a player break, I'm curious to see how rosters change over that time. Like, I feel like we'll see a lot of rotation in and out and a lot of cash cups and stuff. So things like Permitter, I'm really excited to see how they play in some like the other leagues and stuff. I got to watch them on their debut in, was it Trader FE Masters 2? They look pretty good, but again, there's just not much in the meantime to judge them off of. So like I'm
Right.
hoping it goes well.
Yeah.
But there's not lots to judge on yet.
Parks, I'll let you go, and then I
No,
have
I
two
was just gonna
points I want
say,
to piggyback on Affinity there.
yeah, just real quick. I believe the off season is sitting about 2 months, just because the LAN will finish at the start of June, and then I believe qualifiers start up again in August because Stockholm is in November, and you have to have the 8 weeks before that. So that I'd say you start September to October is your full season. Qualifiers probably happen in August, but like yeah, 2 months is pretty long.
Yeah, for teams that are pre-qualified, it's quite a long time.
Yeah, and
Still,
so
I swear it's like the first week of December that the finals concludes or something. It's
no way. I have to
swear
check
it
my
is. Let me-
flights. I'll have to check. I'm gonna look into Stockholm flights soon, so we'll see. Actively
Going back
typing
on the
my
2 points though, real
yeah.
quick, that Affinity made. And this is why I made the tweet I said about the rankings, because a lot of people are like, "Oh, look at the rankings of it." When you have 6 months between events, like the rankings interregionally are not going to make sense. You
No.
know what I mean? I would put any amount of money that if the tier 1 scene, men's scene, whatever, however you want to qualify it, had only the majors and only the 2 majors in between HLTV rankings, like especially 4 months after a major, they'd be whack. They'd be
Yeah.
completely out of whack. So there is that. And the second thing is, we talked about, this is why I think we really hit the nail on the head in the last episode, because now Affinity's come in and basically just backed up what we have said, because this is why there's volatility in the women's scene with the orgs being dropped, because now you have orgs that are like, if I want to get into Impact and get eyes on it for the partnerships, for the sponsorships, whatever it may be, I'm going to wait until one of these free agent teams actually makes it, and then I'm going to go sign them, because I know that I'm going to run, and I'm only going to sign them like a 3-month contract, or maybe I sign them to a 9-month contract with, or I should say, a 3-month contract with a clause that extends it 6 months if they avoid relegation or something, right? Because then I know I can keep the eyes on them. I can keep the sponsorship money there. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, this is why it's so volatile. This is why teams are dropping out left and right. We've seen it in Brazil constantly, W7M back and forth, Davina back and forth with teams, right? So
Yep.
more events are needed. Impact is great, but it's the same thing we've been pounding on for 2 years, Parks, on this podcast.
Of course.
We need more events.
Yeah, we're getting to see a couple more as well. With Thunderpick had an event recently, which was really nice, and that was
Kind
North
of.
America, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So we got to see a different region because we had European Pro League did a women's tournament, Trade It did theirs, and it was all just European. So it was a breath of fresh air to see something come in for NA. I think I don't know what's going on as
Yes.
much with South America scene. I don't follow that as
Well,
closely.
we've covered that here too. Gamers Club haven't
Mm,
announced anything. They have
Nope.
League of
yeah,
Feminina usually twice a year, Masters Feminina twice a year, which they have 2 League of Feminina tournaments run as the qualifiers to them. We've had no announcement.
Nothing.
We're
yeah,
literally going to be 6 months into the year in 4
that's
days time.
crazy.
So you're right about the Thunder pick, 100%. And I know we've had the Trade It, we've had the Play Bay Cup last I want to say it was fall or whatever, maybe it was the early winter. But it's like it's not. There's nothing for Asia. There's nothing for what I mean. It's too inconsistent around the world. So there needs to be more global events too, specifically.
Yeah.
Let's move on though. We do have 4 other pieces of news to get
Mhm.
through really quickly. One just really is that Besiktas, it has come out uh, from Petra, who is the former Besiktas player, CS player, that Besiktas still owes the team money. Um, so obviously, for those that might not know, pre-Impact, right? Um, there was a team with Petra, with
Giuliano.
Giuliano and Mimikela on them. Obviously, some of them are still over in Val, doing very well for G2. But they played for Team Originum, and then before Team Originum, they played for Besiktas, the Turkish football club. Apparently, going back to that 2019 years, you remember they won DreamHack Showdown Valencia over, at the time, CLG Red. That got him in the DreamHack Open winner. Besiktas hasn't paid them their salary from that about year. I want to say that they were contracted to them. So don't know what will come of that. It's a shame to see that. I think that's a big. Esports never changes, mate. It's just
Yep. A
this
tale as
story
old as
always.
time.
It's exactly. I was gonna say this story always comes up over and over again, year after year. Whether it's in the women's scene, or it's in the tier 1 scene, or it's in the tier 2 scene, it's like, why? What is gonna
It's
when does the penny
consistency,
drop?
You got to hand it to the esports scene. It's about the only consistency we have is
That's terrible.
LCA pretty
That's
much pays everybody
hilarious, but
weekly.
that's terrible.
LCA pays everybody weekly. I got great comments
subtle
from
plug
some
there.
dude. I got such.
Subtle plug.
I'm gonna say it. Apple's told me she was so happy that she got her paycheck as fast as she was like, you guys are great. Like, I did one cast and like 48 hours later, I'm getting paid out. It's
Yeah,
like, we do it right, guys. Come on.
you guys, honestly, LCA and shout out Community Gaming New York, because I worked 2 events with them before, and they paid me one time I got paid within 12 hours of the event finishing.
Wow.
I was like, whoa, that was insane. But yeah, this is the tale as old as time. So I hope for the players they find their money. They get their money that they're well dude and owed. The fourth piece of news out of 6, and the smaller signing, no disrespect to the teams or the players, but Saw, the organization in Europe, has picked up a women's side. So Saw has signed Jonas, Tamira, Nars, Caddy Jones, and Sofia Silva. They are now Saw Mist is the name of the women's team. So
I like
uh,
that.
yeah, I do like that too. That's
I
pretty
like it
good.
when teams get creative with the names as well, because I'm so sad when it's just like an org picks up a team and it's like, oh, org name female or women, and I'm like, no, get
Yeah.
creative with it. You know, there's some really cool ones, but that Mist is brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, it is a good name. I'm with you. I felt that way too when you said that back in like 2019 and 2018, because you had obviously CLG Red was the main side everybody
Yeah.
wanted to be, and then you had Vodafone Giants Red come out, and I'm like, but
Is this the
yeah,
way we do
exactly.
things?
So who are now who were turned out to be the original Big Equipa, by the way. So anyway, that's the fourth piece of news. Now into the two big pieces of news, Parks. We're gonna start North America.
Good.
Shimmer have found an organization. Let's go.
I'm so
Let's
happy.
go.
It took a while.
So,
Okay, listen, it took a while.
Yes.
Yeah, no, the team signed to TSM, and they have been signed for quite a little bit already. I don't know if people noticed the contract tweets that came out with the
It
gifts and
wasn't
stuff.
subtle.
It was not subtle. Yeah, and it was basically just like we were waiting for the formal announcement from TSM to actually say anything to anybody. It was kind of funny because I want to say I was talking to Connor at one point, and I just off the cuff mentioned like, man, I'm just waiting for this announcement to happen, and he just went, what? I went, oh, you're one of the people that doesn't know. I thought you knew because I talked to you so much. He's like, no, and I went, well, yeah, you can't tell anybody though. Like, just don't say anything. Yeah, so no, I'm happy for them. I'm happy that they finally have a home. Sad I can't go with them. It's not in the cards as of right now.
Listen, there's only one big question that this is left.
Yeah,
And that's, you ran the logistics for the Shimmer jerseys. When are we getting our TSM jerseys, mate? Come on now.
and I have
I'm
to get
still
my
waiting
own.
for the Shimmer beanies, man.
Oh yeah, we
And
were supposed to
plushies
talk
and
about that.
onesies
We were supposed to talk about
and
that.
giant Shimmer flag.
Yeah. Well, none of that is happening. Sorry, that was not. That
I
was
can
not
hear the
timetable.
Price is Right
Wait,
fail
Pox.
horn
Yeah.
in the background.
Did you make the logo?
No.
Do you know who made the logo?
I
Can I buy the
believe-
rights for the logo?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Right? I don't know. We'll have to talk.
New profile picture incoming.
I think we'll have to talk to Tess. I think Tess was the one, so we'll see. I'll have to
Send a
ask her.
message.
She'll know, yeah. But no, I'm glad that it's finally over the line. The support is really good. They've already actually received some stuff from Logitech, which is pretty cool. You know,
I saw.
is really nice. So yeah, they're gonna be the second big NA org, and the big attempt now is to qualify for Stockholm. But of course, there's other lands happening first that we are gonna be trying in.
I don't know what you're on about.
Listen. It's well documented. Maybe not well documented because I haven't actually talked about it much, but I'm very happy they signed. I wish it was a different org because TSM has such
Complicated past is the easiest way of
a
putting it.
horrid reputation, right? But and fully deserving of that terrible reputation, honestly. But
Yeah.
that's completely independent of the players, and I'm very happy for the players. I'm very happy to see the players have gotten signed. They deserve it 100%. They worked way hard to get to that position, right? So they're only reaping the benefits of what they sowed months and months and months, right? So congratulations to them. Supermads is back in an org as well.
I just got her entire family jerseys, and then they turn around going,
yeah.
I'm getting TSM jerseys now.
Yeah,
and I'm going,
exactly.
What am I here for?
Like, she's becoming one of my favorite players in North America because it's everything you want in a player, right? People look at, it doesn't matter the sport. People look at any sport, you want a player with a little bit of flair, who's extremely talented, who's got a little bit of that attitude as well that can go both ways, respectful, but it's gonna let you know that you're second to the skills. And Mads is that player, so I'm just like, bro, I'm so happy for her and the rest of the team. I mean, Empathy's been absolutely incredible for the better part of like 2 years practically, right? And
Yeah.
now found an organization as well. So I mean, you can't help but feel happy for them.
Yeah, that was one of the big ones as well. As I remember after last season, Empathy putting out a tweet was like, I might be stepping away from Shimmer because I need to be able to afford to live. And then a couple of weeks later, announcement going, I've decided to stick with Shimmer for a little bit, which was a massive relief as well. But I honestly think that TSM is going to make all of their money back that they are putting into the Shimmer girls off of merch sales to Mads' family alone. So and not even mad about it. It's brilliant. The way that Mads' dad is so supportive of not only
Yes.
her, not only Shimmer, but just the whole of Impact as well. Like he's so ready to throw hands on Twitter with
It's
anyone that
great. It
disrespects the
is it
women's
is
scene.
awesome.
And I'm here for it. I am his biggest fan. I am cheering
Yeah.
Mads' dad on.
Amazing. All right, the final piece of news. We have run just a little bit over my schedule, and
Sorry.
That's
it's
fine.
not anybody's fault. Imperial surprising everybody coming out of the ring and absolutely throwing the biggest bomb possible in terms of picking up the pigeons. So
Yes.
they found a home. And as I so correctly put on Twitter, and everybody immediately was like, "Oh, but they're gonna disband after LAN." 7 of the 8 teams have an organization. When, like, literally just a weekend ago, it was 5 of 8.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
let her cook are a special kind of case just because of where they sit. And we'll get into that in a second.
Yeah.
But now all the teams that have had some kind of longevity to them, they're gonna be under an org, and that's really really cool.
Yeah, people, oh, it's going to disband. Yes, I would love for them the orgs to stay with them after the LAN or whatever. But you know, we got to a point where we had no tournaments. Then we
Yeah.
got tournaments, but we had no organizations. Now, you know what I mean. So I'm happy. Like if they disband, okay. You know what I mean. We're making progress at least somewhat, right? So at least it's felt like that. So I'm happy that they did get signed. The Pigeons were way too good not to get signed. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing. You're
Mm.
talking about a team that, listen, if you pinned me right now, I wouldn't fancy them to win Dallas, but you couldn't write them off from winning Dallas, right? Like
Mm.
it's one of these things where they certainly got a shot with the caliber they've got, right? Um, and I think it's phenomenal. There was a tweet that did come out from some Brazilian. I don't want to say commentators, but I can't remember if it was players or commentators in the scene. I don't have it dug up for you, Parks.
Yeah.
That said that the concern is that Imperial's looking internationally. They won't look internally in
Domestically.
Brazil to
Yeah.
to a bunch
Mm.
of teams that are good and want to get signed. It would make things like a Masters Femenina or whatnot. And there is some merit to that because we've talked about the strength of the Brazilian scene and how much it's waning with the decreasing events and the decreasing investment. Um, that seems to be happening outside of the top three, obviously being Fluxo, MIBR, and Furia. But it's also a thing where if this opportunity wasn't there for Imperial, they might not have looked at the women's scene at all. So, I can't tell heads or tails of it. So it's not, you know what I mean? I'm not going to say, oh, it's a bad thing that Imperial didn't look domestically as opposed to internationally. But it is the fact that at least we've got arguably the best team in the world signed again to an organization. So, uh,
One interesting
go
thing I
ahead.
will say about that, Heisky actually
Yeah.
tweeted about this because he said there's
Yes.
some kind of controversy in terms of an EU team being signed by an SA org. They will play Impact in EU, but they will actually they'll visit Brazil to go to local tournaments and stuff. So
Right.
that's really good.
Affinity, you have anything you want to add?
Um, I think it's going to be interesting to see how the Brazilian community takes this, especially when they start competing in
Oh, yeah.
local events and stuff. I think that's going to be because from like a UK side of things, when we have like Epic Lands and stuff and teams come over, sometimes the responses are really mixed. Sometimes people are really excited that we've got people coming over to play in, some UK event, and sometimes it's like, well, this is something that's intrinsic to us. And the Brazilians are very much known for their pack mentality, like, Vamos Brazil. And Europeans coming in, especially when they're a very dominant force, and especially if it's only like female only lands, women only lands.
Yeah.
How the Brazilians take that when you've got a team that's just going to come in and stomp and has nothing to do with your nation. Yeah, I'm more worried about their response than anything.
It's like coming and stomp. But you make a good point. And I think
Yeah.
the thing is they're always going to prefer the full Brazilian lineups, right? Because the players be Brazilian and whatnot. And obviously the other organizations that are, and I mean this by no disrespect to Imperial, but a little bit more historic, especially in the women's scene. You know, Furia, MIBR, obviously they carry a lot more weight. We'll say Fluxo to a lesser extent as an organization, but certainly in the women's side, that team has a lot more history and whatnot. So, but I think we kind of had that almost at a Fragadelphia once, Parks. We had that, last year,
Yeah.
where Apex came over to play one, and everyone was like, "Send them home" and all that stuff because they were Europeans, obviously, and whatnot. But
everybody wanted to play them, though. That was the thing. Everybody wanted to beat them. That was the whole thing.
Yeah,
it wasn't like we don't want them gone. We wanted to just kick them out.
We want to be the ones to send them home.
Yeah. You're going to get exactly the same thing now. But what do you call it? The other thing is it's almost like what NA's going through with Liquid, right? The organization was American for so long, and now they're not American anymore. But really, honestly, the organization was always a European-based organization. They just had an American Counter-Strike team and marketed themselves very well for a long period of time, and were very successful as
I knew people that were like, they moved from CS to watching like Valorant pro scene, and they went, "What do you mean that Liquid's not NA?" And I was like, Liquid is like based in the Netherlands, I'm pretty sure. Like they're a European organization. They're like,
the
no,
Rocket League team is
that
European
can't be right.
too,
That can't be right. And I'm like, it's only CS that they're North America. It's just a weird outlier.
It's such a funny wake up call when you look at other orgs and you're like, wait a minute.
What are you doing?
You're not following the regions. What is this? How dare you do this to me?
Yeah, the Europeans probably have the reverse effect with Cloud9.
Yeah.
You know? Being an American organization, but a full European team. Anyway, it is, like you said, it is going to be interesting. It's going to be pretty heated games, though. I hope they're ready for it. That's
Those are
Brazilian
gonna be good
competition is like nothing else. That's the news. We were going to go over the Fast Cup, but I think we're going to save that for the.
It happens this
we're
coming
gonna go
up
over
weekend.
it next episode.
Yeah.
Okay. So, let's get into why we're all here, and that is our Season 5 primer. So, for those that don't know, this weekend, the big weekend, Dallas, obviously, I'm so sad I won't be there, and you all are going to be there. Enjoy it, by all means, please. The only thing I'm not going to miss is the restroom in that place because it's absolutely atrocious. But
yeah, that was not
aside from that small clip, they don't have dividers for the urinals in the men's bathroom. So that
one of them.
I walked in there, I'm like, what are these?
I'll level with you. I don't think that's a problem I'm going to encounter.
No, I don't think so
I hope not.
But I was looking at them. They're only like 3 foot high and there's no dividers. I'm like, as a 6'3" dude, I'm like, this don't
this
work.
Ain't nothing.
This is not the vibe. But no, bathroom issues aside, let's get into it, right? So traditionally we go group by group, bracket by bracket to pick who we think, matchup by matchup even, to pick who we think is going to win. Let's go over the groups, who's in the groups, and then let's get into the matchup. So Group A, Imperial, Big, FlyQuest Red, HSG, Deja Vu, and then Group B, Navi, Lettercook, TSM, and Fluxo. My early inclination is a lot of people are looking at Group A like, oh, it's such a strong group. Group B to me is the group of death. It's the 100% group of death because I think you have Navi who have shown some struggles on certain maps. You have Fluxo who have shown that they can take down Nigma Galaxy at the time, right? And you have Shimmer who have looked probably the best that they have ever looked. And Lettercook obviously beat, I think, Navi in the regular season. So now you're looking at it going, these are 4 teams that are just absolutely going to claw at each other over the better part of 2 weekend days to see who comes out of the group. For me, if I had to pick a top for one of the Group B is definitely it.
Okay. I mean, I get where you're going with that. I think between I do see it. Like Imperial should be the number one coming out of Group A, and then you've kind of got Big, FlyQuest, and HSG all fighting for that second spot. So there is a kind of a fight there. Whereas you look on the other side, and you're going, well, you kind of see two immediately, and then there's, there's Lettercook and there's Shimmer that are just kind of they're gonna try and fight for it, but we don't know what we'll see from. So it'll be very interesting. That Group A matches. Want to go over those?
Yeah, let's give it to
Yeah.
me. Give it to us.
So first match in the upper bracket is Imperial versus HSG. It's a best of one.
That is spicy.
If I
So-
remember correctly from Valencia.
I think you do remember correctly. It's an interesting one because I haven't been able to see much of HSG, and I wasn't able to catch any of the streams for the wildcard qualifier. And I don't keep up too much with that scene, especially with the fact that given next season they won't even have a slot. It's not really been on my radar as much as trying to keep on top of all of the chaos that is happening in the other regions.
Yeah.
But they always come in looking really strong, and they I think are going to play a lot stronger on land this time around. It's definitely not a fun first matchup if you're HSG, but if any team I think could give them a run for their money, I think that's just gonna be a crazy first match.
I think right off the rip as well, like that's a really good match. Is for your HSG, you're already in Dallas. You've been pracking. You've been boot camping local. We don't know where Imperial are. I'm guessing they're still in Europe. They're probably traveling in the
Think
next
so.
few days over. One big thing that I made note of after Valencia, because I talked to GFI about this. I talked to Ramona about this. Was when they came to Dallas the first time around, they had no time. They were
Yeah.
dead on arrival, just super tired. And I think we saw it in the documentary. Like it was I forget who it was. It was their first LAN as well, and there were so many other little bits and pieces that they were kind of dealing with. So they did not come in their hottest. And then you look at what they did in Valencia and how close of a match they had in the groups against Nigma at the time. A best of one kind of favors them just because of where they are, and I think they'll have a better idea of where Imperial's vetoes sit.
There's a huge difference between that, though. And that is look at the lineup that they had then and look at the lineup they've got now, right? Like, that's the big difference. So, the lineup they've got now, according to Liquipedia,
Yeah.
is Olga, GFI, Liobang, Xiao Wu, and 95. So, if I remember correctly, on the Valencia side, now I may be wrong, I may be speaking out of tongue here, but if I remember correctly, I don't think Liobang was on the side. I believe it was Argent was on the side.
Yep.
And then they had
Hazel.
one other player, Hazel. Yes, thank you. So you have two players that aren't now. So I don't know what to make of this team, right? Because they have 95. I haven't seen her play. They do have Leo Bang. They've played with her before. If you remember, after that Valencia, they had the Goddess Cup Season 3 over in Asia. They played with Leo Bang there. Won the tournament with a lower bracket run. Won the tournament in Season 4 with a lower bracket run with her as well. So they've won the Asian tournaments. I've been watching Douyu, which is the website that I look at. It's a Chinese website, so I'm sure but it's very hard to navigate. But from what I've seen, there has not been an announcement for Season 5 of the Goddess Cup, so I have not been able to see this team and what they've done in Asia. Right? I know that there are leagues there that they play. Don't get me wrong. Based through what is it called? Five play, 5E, something like that. The client that they play through,
Perfect World. There you go.
I think 5E is the website though. But anyway,
Yeah.
I can't. I haven't been able to keep up with them, but I know that they play in a league there. But it's a much different lineup. So I'm interested to see how much firepower they have, because when they were in Valencia, you're right, they looked phenomenal. But they're missing two players from that lineup. So are we going to see a repeat of that? Because if I remember correctly, they took FlyQuest down at that LAN as well, and now here they are again. FlyQuest is in their group, right? So we'll see. We got to do predictions, though, right?
Yep.
Unless you want to add anything to that, Affinity.
Yeah. No, I don't think there's anything I can add on top. Nope.
So I'm going to put you on the spot then, Affinity. A prediction: who's going to win, Imperial or HSG?
My heart is with HSG, but my head is saying Imperial. Because even though Imperial has the cracks in the armor are very much starting to show at the moment, and preemptively, I'm sure we'll get to overall winner. I I genuinely am not sure that they will win Dallas.
Yeah.
I don't think this is their season. I think we finally see the dynasty topple. In the best of one, as you said, could go either way, and I'd really love to see HSG take that. I think that'd be such an awesome way to kick everything off. But I still have to give it to Imperial at the moment, I think.
So your vote's for Imperial. Parks, give it to me.
I think
Give it to me.
I think
Come on.
HSG pull this one, and the reason
Let's
I think
go,
HSG
baby.
pull this one is because it's a best of one. I think the shock and awe kind of comes through because if I remember correctly, HSG won map number 1 in their series in Valencia. I'm actually gonna go back and check that. So
Yes.
I think as the game kind of wore on, yeah, Nigma got into that game afterward. Looks like, yeah, they did. It was a 16. Oh no, sorry. So HSG won the second map, but they won it in multiple overtimes. So I don't know. I'm still gonna go with HSG. I think in terms of the map, and you talked about it. You just said like they've taken a step back this season. It's visible, and there's only so much your stars can do. Now, best of one, anything can happen. Pistol rounds, are above all. I think HSG could potentially exploit some of the maps that have shown to be struggling.
Why do people keep asking me to do predictions before map vetoes? Once the map vetoes come out, I can tell you with almost pinpoint.
Listen.
Right, I can tell you with almost pinpoint accuracy what the veto will be, and then I can tell you who I think is going to win it. But then people always be like, "Who do you think is going to win?" And I'm like, "I don't know."
All right, Benny.
This is what I'll say, right? The maps that Pigeons did drop in the regular season, right? You're looking at Vertigo, you're looking at Mirage, right? So I don't know if this is a team that's going to play Vertigo now that Vertigo's not in the side. There's a possibility they move it out of the map pool. However, HSG's best maps. What are HSG's best maps, right? Vertigo, Ancient, Mirage. So you have a Vertigo that we saw Fluxo beat this team on it, right?
Yep.
So you know that they're beatable on a Vertigo. You know Mirage isn't really high up on the map pool for this side, right? Because they used to play a lot of Nuke. They played, Inferno quite a bit. And then you have the Mirage that Pigeons, yes, they've won. Not the Mirage, the Ancient. Yes, they've won. Yes, they won a lot on it. It's definitely not the strongest thing in their map pool, but I think it might be a trap. So if we get a Vertigo or if we get an Ancient, I'm going to say this might be Imperial winning. I actually more fancy the idea that HSD can beat this team in a best of 3 than in a best of 1. I think HSD are a team that kind of build as the tournament goes on. They get stronger and stronger and stronger. So in the best of 1, I'm going to fancy Imperial to get the job done.
Okay.
So I know I went, yeah, let's go, baby. And that's because people are starting to believe in HSG, and I believe in HSG. I think for the best of 1, you're going to see Imperial take care of business, though.
All right, then. So we will move Imperial over to the winners of their winners match of their group. Next up, Big Akipa versus FlyQuest Red. It's an interesting tale. It is an interesting tale. I think it is.
Don't you dare ask me to predict this one.
Well,
I think this is going one way.
Yeah.
FlyQuest Red.
There you go.
And the reason I'll start for this one, and the reason I think is I actually really like this big side. Don't get me wrong, Giuliano, phenomenal. IGL. We've talked so much about Kiosa and Paulie and Zana. The problem that we have, and it's a problem that's kind of really stuck with these sides that Jenny R and Zana have been on. It's not the players. I'm not calling out the players, but they're very streaky. It's something where they win 6 rounds in a row and then they win, maybe 1 of the next 6. And that might be something that FlyQuest can take advantage of, right?
Yeah.
And I think they will. I think that this is an opportunity that they definitely will. The same point I made about Imperial, I want to make about FlyQuest, though, right? Mirage is a map that FlyQuest are going to be very tempted to play against Big Akipa. And that's a map that they 100% should not play against Big Akipa because Big plays a great Mirage. And so that is going to be a really big pitfall if FlyQuest say, we're in a best of 1. What do we feel comfortable with in a best of 1? Let's go to Mirage. That mindset has to completely go because if they can get them onto something else, uh, I was going to say an overpass, but that's gone now, right?
Yeah.
So if they can get them onto something else, maybe a vertigo specifically from FlyQuest, that would be good.
Yeah.
But I think it's the perma ban for big. But anyway, the point is, if they can get them onto something else ancient, maybe FlyQuest have a really good shot. So for my money, I'm going to put it on FlyQuest.
You have a pick?
Fox, you want to go next?
Yeah, you want to
Or-
wait? You're gonna wait this one out? I'll make
I
it
was
easy.
just pulling up my map vitro matrix.
Yeah.
Just to have a nosy.
All I'm gonna say is North American team not play the European. Never goes.
Don't.
FlyQuest
do
Red.
it.
FlyQuest Red. I'm gonna predict go through. The only thing I worry about, and this is a thing that I've noticed time and time again this season of Advanced, is they can be, if they do not get off to a good start, they fall too far behind to have any chance of a comeback. And they've come close on comebacks. I've seen it. They come close in advanced matches. But when you lose 6 of the first 7 rounds, you're down 6-1. You have not done yourselves any favors. So that's my only worry point. Is you mentioned the streakiness of big. FlyQuest coming out flat is not good. If they come out flat, the best of one is not going to go their way. They're going to be sitting and playing against either HSG or Imperial in the lower, and it's like at that point you're going up against the two teams that really do have a shot of getting out of the groups as well. So I don't know. It's I'm gonna stick with FlyQuest on this one because I do expect that's what my expectation is for them to beat big. But in terms of everything, yeah, I'm scared of the slow start. I think is my point.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I think this is a match that genuinely could go either way. Again, depending on how the veto falls. And Big have looked pretty strong this season, and FlyQuest they had it. We saw it lessen last season, and we've seen it lessen again this season, and it feels a little bit like Pigeons or Imperials kind of. I don't want to say fall from grace, but fall from perfection
Right.
is that everyone has been slowly catching up to FlyQuest. And we don't get to see these two teams compete very often. So I don't really know how it's gonna go. I think it'll be a very interesting matchup. And as you said, if FlyQuest don't hit the ground running, they can struggle.
Yeah.
And the other thing is we haven't really seen them properly compete on land with the new roster because they made the changes. I do believe they switched out Mads to have a roster that would be more comfortable on land, which confuses me because Mads is like the most confident person I've ever seen on land. Like I remember seeing her at Frack, terrified. Love her to pieces. Oh my god, I do not want to ever play against her on land.
I had a great yelling.
It is
I had a
loud.
great
It is
time yelling
fierce.
with
I
her.
love it. I've got videos of you pacing. Clammy,
her not yelling is great.
It's a good point, but they also have Emmy back in the side, who's been with them for lands way before Imba, so she's very comfortable on lands. You know,
it could go either way. I think that home soil might actually just be the edge that FlyQuest needs.
Let's go.
Is being in North America with the crowd behind them, I think, is what will definitely separate them. I don't necessarily know whether this early on it'll have the same impact, but when we get to the best of 3 stages, for instance, I think that is going to be like a huge factor.
So who's your pick? You gotta pick.
Thank you, Benny.
My lawyer has advised that I don't answer this one, but if I were to disregard their advice, I would say FlyQuest, but with a big asterisk saying that bigger keeper should scare them.
Yes, I agree.
I think
Especially
every team here should scare everybody.
As you bracket, I just want to say, big traditionally, by the way, I with Zana and all them, are sides that do massive comebacks. I mean, big had that season 1 at Dallas. I want to say it was season 1 and 2.
Dallas,
yeah. They're very, even going back to Vodafone Giants Red when they were on that side in the ambush cups and whatnot, they'd be down like 12-1 and they'd roar back and win 16-14 or overtime. They would be insane. So that makes us a winners match with HSG and FlyQuest. This bracket's busted already.
And you said that
Let's
this wasn't the group of death.
this wasn't the group of death, no.
No.
And the only reason I'd say that is because I don't fancy Big at all in this bracket. But let's get to the winners match. More on that next. Let's get to the winners match. FlyQuest HSG. Who we going with, Parks? I'm putting you on the spot first.
I'm gonna say HSG. I'm gonna continue the craze. I'm gonna burst the bubble. I think HSG do it. I honestly do. Based on how Valencia went, like the big thing I remember is during Valencia between HSG and FlyQuest Red, Mads was the one that really showed up that game, and she's no longer on the roster. So I'm hopeful that the rest of the team can keep the bounce going after their win against Big. I look at how they played against HSG though, and HSG play a very good, solid Counter-Strike that I think FlyQuest, when they go up against it, will struggle. And I think that's where Olga, who is of course a superstar in her own right, they'll overpower them. In all honesty, they'll overpower them, and that will be HSG.
Affinity.
These are difficult questions. This is
the
definitely
first
the closest. Yeah, I'm aware this is the first group. Okay, this season is the closest of any season we've had so far, and
Yeah.
I will put my money where my mouth is on that one. They've been good. Previous seasons have been good. Don't get me wrong. Loved Impact since the start. No season has been this competitive, and I think it will continue to get more competitive as well. But I genuinely don't think I'm predicting because I'm being asked to. I genuinely don't think predictions matter at all because I think we're going to see.
No.
I don't even
We
know
don't
what
care.
upsets are anymore. I don't even know what an
Just
upset
answer
looks
the
like.
question.
That's not Race
I
for
don't
Impact
know,
way.
Parks. Screw it, FlyQuest.
There you go.
Give it
Yes.
to FlyQuest.
Perfect.
Again, home soil. I think
You
think that's
guys,
what they need.
you both were just building the narrative that I believe Group A to be, and that is, I think, here's what I honestly think Group A is going to be, right? Group A, I think FlyQuest are going to run through the best of runs, surprise everybody, and everyone is going to build up Saturday going, oh, the return of FlyQuest. Are they back? Is FlyQuest going to do it? Before, nah, is the answer once the playoffs come around.
That's on
However,
Sunday.
on that, that's what I'm saying. They have all of
You said,
Saturday to build it up.
I see.
Anyway, so I think FlyQuest get by this one because I think this is one that FlyQuest are going to look at and say, yeah, why don't we play Mirage here, right? And HSG are pretty good on Mirage, don't get me wrong. It is way further down their map pool, though, right? It is like their third map. And the biggest question mark, if this best of one goes to Mirage, is Olga. And not question mark is in me questioning her power. It's how is FlyQuest going to deal with her? Because HSG's strongest suit on Mirage is how much of an absolute monster Olga is on this map. I mean, she was incredible for Furia back season 1 on this map. Big reason why they took it off Nigma in the grand final. So that is my question: is how can FlyQuest deal with her? And if they can really push around players like Leobong, who I believe is the B site anchor, if I remember correctly, and 79, then I would say, you know what? This is not 79, sorry, 95. This is totally doable for FlyQuest. So that's why I believe FlyQuest is going to win this group, and then everybody's going to be talking about them as if they're back. That might be a false promise. When we get to the playoffs, I'll explain why. But that's my pick. That puts FlyQuest through as the group winner. That gives us the eliminator match of Biggie Keepa and Imperial. Affinity, I'll start with you. This should be one of the more easier ones. Yeah, thank you very much. Parks, I'll go.
One word's all I need.
Imperial.
Honestly, that's
It's
all
Imperial.
I need to do. It's Imperial.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. I think Big. Don't get me wrong. I like this side, but I look at them and I'm like, I don't see they have the quality to get through this.
I think they drew the short straw a little bit with this one. I think they would have fared better in the other group. Which is why I think Group B is definitely the more chaotic group, where I think there are more possibilities for who wins. I do genuinely believe that Group A is the group of death, though, just because of the raw firepower you've got coming in. And unfortunately, Bigger Keeper doesn't, from what we've seen this season, doesn't quite feel like it's up there. They're good, don't get me wrong, but it just feels like there's that level of separation where you've got 3 really competitive teams and then 1 competitive team.
Yeah. I love how you said Group B is the group of cast. We've just picked FlyQuest to win Group A. Of all the imaginable. But hey, it is what it is. That leaves us with the decider match, the rematch. Imperial, HSG. I want this matchup so badly in the best of 3 because every time they play, it's fireworks, mate. Every time they play, it's fireworks. And that's just what I want to see, man. I mean, come on. You're in America, and, we just got
Get the
off of a
fireworks
holiday,
out.
public holiday. What's better than fireworks, right?
Yeah.
Affinity, I'm going to go with you. Actually, I'll start first. Let me
Yeah.
start first because I
Okay.
haven't started first the last 2 times.
Baited me like that.
I'm going to pick HSG. And the reason I'm going to pick HSG is because listen, I have nothing against Imperial. I think they're a phenomenal team. I still think they're a top 5, potentially even top 3 team in the world. I do not have the same faith in this team as when Vilga was at the helm. I think they're completely unproven. I have the complete faith in HSG with Ramona at the helm. Okay, I think that's fair to say. I think this matchup is going to be strength versus strength, power versus power. We talked about it, Mirage, Ancient, you know what I mean? In terms of Vertigo is in there. I think they're going to play the Vertigo. I think it's going to go 3 maps. I do not fancy Imperial on a Vertigo at all, especially versus HSG. I mean, you're talking about a team that took Fluxo when they were B4 to double overtime on that map. Some person made one error, right, on recovering the weapon at ramp, and that completely threw the double overtime away. That is how fine the margin was, and we saw that Fluxo is a team that can take down Imperial. So for me, I'm looking at the map and I'm saying I believe that Imperial have, like you said, the cracks have started to show in the armor, right? I think that's going to be the case on Ancient. I think there already is the case on Ancient. That is the #1 map for HSG, or maybe #2 next to Vertigo. And Vertigo is like the weak point right now. It's the Achilles heel for the side. So I fancy a 3-mapper. I fancy Mirage going to Imperial, but I fancy Vertigo and Ancient going to HSG, and I think they slay the giant finally. Asia is here. Call up Blah. Let him know. He already knows. Affinity, now I'll turn to you and say, give me your prediction.
It's gonna go 3 maps,
Uh-huh.
loads of overtimes. The whole of production is going to be distraught at how long this is taking and how far behind schedule they are. But I think that Imperial takes it. I think that I've said the cracks are starting to show. I don't think they lose at this stage, though. They make a deep run, in my opinion. They make a deep run. They top their group. Maybe not top their group. I think they do well. They get
Make it out.
through. They make it out. How unscathed? We shall see. But no, I give it to Imperial still. HSG, they're looking really good. They've got a lot of firepower. It will heavily depend on the veto and getting that momentum swinging. But at the end of the day, Imperial, despite these flaws starting to become more apparent, still are the #1 team in the world, like women's team in the world at the moment. So I still give it to them right now.
That leaves
I'm
one
willing to be
question.
proven wrong, though.
That leaves one question. That's Parks. Are you going to break my heart?
I am gonna break your heart, and the reason I'm gonna break your heart is just because of past trauma. HSG have
Past trauma?
yeah, past trauma. I was at Valencia. Okay, it was sad. I think it goes to full 3 maps. I think this one goes the full distance. I struggle to see. This is the problem, right? Vilga was such a big part, and we're seeing that now. We've seen a lot of that. Vilga being gone has been a huge change up for the squad, and Daz taking the reins hasn't panned out, I don't think, as they expected it to. Maybe it was one of those trades that they were looking maybe for more firepower in exchange for less IGL skill. I don't know. I'm not gonna predict anything on that side. Not my business.
The only rebuttal to that, real quick, that I was going to say is, like, and I agree with you, but then they went 5-0 in their group, so it's like, how disappointed can they be?
Yeah, so
you know what I mean? Like,
I still think that you look at the quality of the players on the team, the star players. I still think they outdo HSG. I think it's really close, and I think we'll be able to tell a lot more based on the first match, right? Because if it goes completely the opposite way, but we still end up in the same spot where it's HSG versus Imperial in a best of 3. I don't know what we get, but I mean, it's gonna be a good match either way. So I'm gonna still give it to Imperial, but it was so close in Valencia. It's gonna be even closer in Dallas until we watch them fall flat and lose to like Big in the elimination match. I don't know.
Don't
Flux,
jinx
if you
it.
ever see this, I'm the one that believes in your playbook, brother. That's all I'm saying, okay? That's all I'm saying. Okay, so that gives us top team FlyQuest Red Imperial Valkyries is what they're actually known
Yeah.
as the runner-up. Let's move on to Group B. We've got the opening matchup. Navi and Letter Cook. Letter Cook won this matchup in the regular season. We get a little bit of a rematch. Parks, we're going right back to you, man. Back to back.
I think it would be absolutely hilarious for Lettercook to win. I'm gonna say Navi are gonna take this one though.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the safe. I'm gonna take the safest of safe picks here. Navi have been absolutely firing on all cylinders. Like they went from like a V6 in Valencia to a V8 now. They are flying down the Texas freeway to into a upper level spot in the best of one.
Affinity? Who you got?
Lightning doesn't strike twice. Navi Javelins clears this. I know I'm happy and I'm willing to say it as they clear this. They weren't happy with that one loss, and rightly so. I'll level with you, that's not a series they should have lost. And I don't think it was a series that her cook expected to win. They will have demo reviewed this to Kingdom come. They will not make the same mistakes twice. This will be a pretty, I think, dominant victory for Navi Javelins.
I want to ask if Letter Cook are secretly like West Ham United fans because they went on to beating Navi to straight losing to One Win Gang back to back weeks. I'm like, that's a West Ham
The
trait, mate.
whiplash was
That's a West Ham trait. But no,
Yeah.
I am with you. I think Navi take it. I'm not worried. I think Letter Cook good side. Don't get me wrong. I'm very happy that both Monishkine and Astra and Rachel actually, all three, are going to be on land. But I think Navi are going to come out guns blazing. They have an opportunity that nobody else has. Everybody expected Navi to win, or I shouldn't say expected, but thought that Navi could take the last land. A lot of analysts picked them and whatnot. I thought it was totally possible they could take Enigma down. They didn't. Now Vilga left. Navi are going to be looking at this like, we need to make a statement. This will be a statement best of one, if there ever is even such a thing. And I think that is going to be the case. Navi through to the winners match. TSM and Shimmer. I'm sorry, TSM Shimmer.
Yeah.
And the Fluxo Demons. This is a very interesting opening match. Affinity, I'm going to go with you first. I'll start first on the next one. Who you got?
It's an interesting one because Fluxo getting through wasn't initially on my cards either. But again, they wouldn't be here if they didn't deserve to be here. TSM Shimmer have been looking really good. I got very worried because they changed up everything 2/3 of the way through the season when they brought on Florence.
It was fine.
They did a complete.
Everything was
Are
fine.
you sure? Everything was fine as
Yeah.
everything was burning.
Yeah.
But they did like a complete overhaul apparently, like foundation dug up everything from scratch, and they did that mid-season, so they've had a little bit of time for it to settle. I will level with you. When I found that out, it did terrify me. I was like, you found a recipe that's working right now. Why are you screwing with that right now? You still haven't guaranteed qualification yet. You are risking so much for this. And I get that the long-term benefit, but also in my head I was like, why don't you just wait until the season's over? You have a long break to implement this. They're like, nah, it's fine, we've got this.
They did.
Yeah. And but Fluxo, they're looking pretty strong individually. As a unit, sometimes the cohesion lacks a little bit, but I feel like these are two teams on very equal footing, but I'm going to give it to Shimmer out of what I can only describe as maybe a tiny bit of personal bias.
Yeah,
And
that's 100%
again,
personal
home
bias.
home territory. It's, as wait, caveat here as well. As long as can I swear?
Yes.
As long as
You get
Abby
one.
doesn't break her fucking arm again.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know.
that
By
Shout
the
out
way,
Abby.
I will mention this.
Everybody
Sorry.
gets one.
I will
Everybody
mention
gets
this.
one spare.
I will mention this, by the way. If you look in the ESL Impact documentary, there is a timestamp of them in the media day before Abby has broken her wrist, and it was like a whiplash moment because my mind was I saw them the day before. I like hung out with a bunch of them. We walked around, and then I didn't see them until after Abby did that to her wrist. So just like my memory is, we got off the plane. I saw Abby. She didn't have a thing on her wrist. Next thing I know, anytime she was in a Shimmer jersey, she had on her wrist. I was just like, I can't handle this.
The fact, right? I have two grievances with the ESL Impact documentary quickly, like very quick side note here.
Yeah.
One, I'm not happy at the fact that they didn't really mention Empathy at all, considering she was the best rated player across the entire season and got zero mention. She was in the background in like an image twice. And I
Yeah.
was like, I understand they had a narrative that they were pushing. I would have loved to see them speak to Empathy because she was the star of season 4. She was the poster girl of season 4. And also, they didn't mention the broken arm at all. How do you make a documentary about the event and not mention the panic to find a local player with like 8 hours before the matches start? Like the fact that that didn't find its way in, I was like, come on! It was you were handed content gold there on a silver platter.
Because the only reason is because EU is the only thing that matters, mate. That's why they get 6 spots next season. Moving on. Let's get back into the. That's what this podcast is about. That's what I'm about.
That's what Benny is about. Benny just likes throwing shade.
ESL, I am completely impartial.
Yeah,
I love casting for Impact.
Are only the opinions of me, not of Parks or Affinity or this podcast.
Unless we say them, and then it's our opinion.
But I will say this: we need to get back on task. So let's get back on task. Navi, you pick Shimmer. I'm picking Fluxo because they are the demons, mate. They are very, very, very good. And the question that I had for this side was, can they still be the best team in Brazil? Because when Furia had Ana X, Furia started to look really good, and they beat them in Masters Femenina.
Right.
Furia did with Ana X, and I thought, okay, Furia the top dog again. Roster moves happen. Ana X is on Furia now. Nani retires. And I'm like, so now you have the best improved player from CSGO to CS2 in Julie, and you've picked up arguably one of the best players in Brazil who is taking Furia to the highest heights again with Masters Femenina. You have not lost a step in your firepower, and this is going to be the second reckoning of Brazil. The first reckoning was taking down Nigma in that best of one. Brazil's coming in for a second reckoning, okay? And it's going to be with Fluxo, and I think that's why they win. Shimmer are very good. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people at this land. More on that when we get to it, but I'm going to pick Fluxo for this one. Parks, are you the voice of reason, or can you not see past the bias in your jersey?
For reasons I cannot explain, because I'm in the chat with them and I know a lot of things, I'm going to pick Shimmer. I think they've got a good beat on what... I think... Okay, whatever, Boomer.
They win just based off of Mads' dad alone. That's it. I'll say it. Mads' dad and the support that that family brings, that whole tournament.
Okay.
One right there.
I think they have a good beat on Fluxo, and I think that's going to be a big thing. And the structure change and everything, as much as it's a scary prospect, I think it's done them a lot of good. It's evened things out a lot more. And as much as I like Fluxo, I think if the veto falls the way that it's been looked at, I think Shimmer have a very good chance of actually taking them in the best of one. I think in a best of 3, Fluxo wins all time, because that's just one of those things of like, Shimmer are a good surprise team. You can get them on the veto and be prepped, they can take it.
See, my narrative was going to be that Fluxo beat them in the best of 1 here, and Shimmer go down to the elimination match, and they push Let Her Cook out of the tournament. That was going to be my narrative.
Right.
The only thing I would say that is of disadvantage to Fluxo, and it's just the style of Brazil more than that, is that they are extremely aggressive. Everyone talks about that, but not aggressive in like the way they play the rounds. Aggressive in like how willing they are to take on a retake with a player disadvantage.
Yeah.
And that is my issue, because I have seen Fluxo play even in Serie B, by the way, which they struggled in this month. Over in Gamers Club, I've seen them where they're in a 3v4 and they're going for it. They're in a 2v3 and they know they're going to be broke, but they have an AK and an op and they're going for it. And I'm like, I would much rather you save that and then try to use your positioning in the following round to get the players who are on pistols to try and bait a team into a site where that AK and AWP now sit stacked, and then you can try to steal the round back from them. Fluxo aren't about that. They're going straight at you, and that is a big disadvantage sometimes. It's you've got to handle the economy really well, especially now that we're down to MR12. So I think if Shimmer get on a roll, then that would benefit them in the best of one. I'm not going to put it past them that they can't beat them, but I just think there's too much quality in the firepower that I'm seeing from Fluxo and just how they play that Shimmer won't be able to handle it. However, write Shimmer in. Two of you vote for Shimmer. Write him in, upper bracket. Let's go on to the winners match. Navi versus Shimmer. If you say Shimmer here, Parks, I'm gonna slap you so
Parks,
hard
I
upside
think
the
you
head.
know what you have to do.
You,
here.
Benny, the
No,
best part is
I
you're
get
never gonna see me in person again because you're not going to any of the lands, so you'll never have the
But
chance to slap
hey,
me.
I didn't say I'm not going to any of the lands, mate. I just didn't go to this one because I had to buy a brand new car.
Yeah.
So,
Whoa. Priorities way out of whack there. What is going on? Car, LAN.
listen,
Hank
I'm
is
flying over from the UK, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
she doesn't know about driving in America, where you
does.
desperately need a car that's in good
He
shape.
does.
No, I'm just,
Because
I know.
She met Hank. She knows my car. Hank's still injured from
Anyway,
Philadelphia, man.
who who are you picking, Parks, in this best
I'm gonna
of
say Navi.
one?
I'm gonna say Navi, and I think Shimmer would understand that as well. I think one of the things that is interesting about Shimmer is how close they brought Navi in Valencia in their first best of one when they were playing with ID, and they didn't really, like, everything was out of whack for them. They lost their IG
Yeah.
because you have to remember at the time Abby was the IGL, and so losing her caused like a huge ripple effect because now all of a sudden, like, Bouchard was basically babysitting ID, and like ID wasn't really communicating with them. It was like she was making her own play that she thought was really good, and after like 2 rounds, Navi figured it out, and it was kind of just over. But even so, I think it was like 13-7 or something. So there was still respectable. There was still like a respectable amount of rounds played. I think the way what we've seen from Navi in the last few weeks, though, is one of those things of just like it's very, very hard to go up against them.
Yeah. Talking of IGLs, me when I change IGLs mid-season. Forget complete structure rework. IGL switch mid-season. Although I changed. I'll be honest with you, I didn't see coming. Am I going next or?
Yes.
I can't have that much copium. I do have to give it to Navi Javelins. I hope that if the Shimmer ever listen to this, that they will forgive me.
One of them will not, but I won't let you know who. She'll let you know.
Oh no, you can't tell me that. You can't tell me.
No,
one
she's
of
my
them won't
biggest.
forgive you.
She's my biggest
That's
fan.
for off podcast.
Yeah,
that's
off
for
podcast. That's off podcast.
Look, I don't mean to cut you off, Vinny, but for the sake of time, we'll move on because this, you know, I think everybody reasonably would say Navi's very strong, strong enough to see through this. Yeah, so Navi through is the group winner. Let's continue on the bracket, which for some reason I just closed the freaking tab to.
Let her cook
it
and
would
Fluxo.
be admit. Is this even a contention? If this is the bracket, come on now.
Let's move on.
It's going to be Fluxo all day. I think this is going to be.
Actually.
Yeah, sure. Bring it up. No, I'm sticking with Fluxo.
From let her cook to who let blood cook.
Oh.
It's going to be it's Fluxo all day.
So, Fox, do you need a permanent secondary host to replace Ben?
Oh, when he dies, yeah.
At the rate I'm going, that's going to be next week.
Yeah.
So let's get into the decider match then. Obviously, we have Shimmer and Fluxo. Best of 3. I mean, it's got to. I don't see a way past Fluxo, mate. I'm sorry. I think they have so much quality that they'll definitely make it through to the playoffs. I mean, I would look at this bracket even without the opening matchups and say Navi and Fluxo are the two teams that are going to make it through. I like the idea that Shimmer can reclaim 5th, 6th for the first time in NA. since season 1, right? I think that's totally possible. It's totally within Shimmer's realm of possibility. Um, if they were in Group A, I actually would fancy them potentially even to make it through. But I don't think that they can get past Fluxo. I think they're so strong, Fluxo, that it's just going to be too much for them.
That's a lot of negativity to say in front of someone wearing a Shimmer jersey. I respect the confidence.
It's the best of 3, by the way. Just a reminder,
True.
it is the best of 3.
Yeah.
Affinity.
You got to go
ahead.
next.
I said it when we talked about them in the best of ones. I think it could go either way. I hand it to Shimmer, quite honestly. I think Fluxo Demons is good. I just think Shimmer with more practice on LAN recently is gonna be strong, and I think that's gonna surprise a lot of people. I think with the new signing from TSM, I think they've got the firepower. I am a little bit worried that a lot of teams when they get signed, they feel like they have to overcompensate to prove themselves and why they got signed. And as long as they don't fall into that pitfall, I genuinely think this can be really good for them. And could go either way, but I'm gonna put it on Shimmer because I don't even know if it's an upset at that point. I think it go
Yeah,
either
it
way,
would
but
be.
I give
It
it to
would be.
Shimmer. Maybe I don't know. I give it to Shimmer though. I have faith. I'll have hope.
Well, okay, because one of us at least voted for Shimmer, I don't have to hide pretenses. I'm gonna say Fluxo, and the reason I say Fluxo is because of previous lands they've been at and how well they've done. In recent time, because they haven't played a lot in terms of like lands or in terms of lots of matches, that might go against them. I think in for Shimmer though, it would have to be a big step for them to win in a best of 3 against this team. That's not to say they won't. That's not to say they can't. I really do think that they have a very good shot at it. I'm just gonna go with the experience of Fluxo have been taking steps forward consistently through every single one of these lands, and especially since Poppins joined the squad and was able to be on there full time, they look scarier. Every single time they come to a land, they look scarier. So I'm gonna put it to them to win this one. But I think this one goes 3 maps. I don't think this one goes out with a whimper. This one's gonna be a big one.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think Shimmer are really going to put NA back on the map here. So that gives us the playoff matches. Shimmer are the runners-up. I'm sorry, not Shimmer. Fluxo are the runners-up of Group B. So the first semifinal would be the winners. FlyQuest versus Fluxo. What a matchup. Best of 3. And Affinity, I'm going to go to you first. We'll go Parks first next. We'll go Affinity, Parks, and then me. Who do you have in this one?
I sound like a broken record. I genuinely believe that almost every one of the series could go either way. I wholeheartedly believe that as somebody who has casted all regions across the entire thing. I think it go either way. I am going to give it to FlyQuest. Based on maybe just it feels a little bit more veteran-y, like they've got just that little bit of wisdom behind them. They've got the backing with them, and again, home crowd. I think when we get to that point, I give it to FlyQuest.
Parks, go ahead.
I'm gonna give it to FlyQuest as well. Benny doesn't get an option in this one. I think the confidence that they I think the confidence that FlyQuest have coming out of not having a Saturday game, any Saturday games, because they win their group, right? They're not going to have any Saturday games. That gives them a bit of time to rest, gives them a bit of time to look at Group B, the matches that Flux will be playing. I think that little bit of an adjustment, those adjustments that they can make, will really help them. And I really want to see them in the finals. So I will let my biases and opinions sway me entirely on this prediction that does not matter at all. Benny, who are you picking?
It's Fluxo. 100% it's going to be Fluxo, without a shadow of a doubt. And it will be a 2-0. And the reason it is because they will not have an answer for how good Poppins can clutch, for how good Junger, not Younger, Junger is on the AWP. And I just think I'm a little bit, the issue I have with Fluxo, or I'm sorry, the issue I have with FlyQuest is, and I don't mean to call her out, it's not call out, but there are times where Calde looks like the best AWPer in the world. And there are times when they cannot get her the AWP and she has no impact in the game. And that is a very big problem that FlyQuest have not addressed. And I think that is going to play out. I think FlyQuest are going to look better at this land because they're going to take advantage of the best of ones. I don't think they're a better team overall than the last time we saw them at Dallas. And the reason I say is I look at the ESEA advanced results and I'm like, they're nowhere competitive like they
Yeah,
were back then as
those have been a
well.
struggle.
Yeah. So I'm looking at them going, where's the answer? They've moved Goose off IGL, if I remember correctly, as well. So
Cowday
she's
is
not
taking
even the
that.
IGL anymore. And I'm like, she put in an insane amount of work to be the IGL. And I understand Cowday's very good mid-round caller, but Goose is a very good early and late round caller, and that's why that team always was pesky to beat. Even if they didn't get the playoffs, they were always pesky to beat because they had very good calls from wire to wire every single round, right? I don't
So
see that with this
so
side now.
there is a caveat to that because Goose does still call in some maps. So it's not a full switch over. It
Great. I've seen that happen in the pro scene all the time.
yeah.
And
People have
it
told me,
doesn't
"Oh,
work.
this person calls you." You know what happens? They go out of the tournament. That's what happens.
It's
So
giving me Astralis vibes when Blame F started calling, and it just
yeah, even
didn't.
before then, where they've had teams in the top division. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, this.
Yeah.
I think wasn't it this Cloud9 did that with like Stewie calls on this map, we called it, and you know what, they went out before the playoffs in every single tournament. So we are in the playoffs now, but I look at FlyQuest and I'm like, they're way too good. People underestimate Brazil because they don't see Brazil play. And I think that's the reason. There's not enough people just say they're very aggressive the way they play, blah blah blah, but nobody really looks at them in Syria B, in Syria C, in Masters Femenina, and sees how they actually operate. And they walk into these lands and they think, oh, it reminds me of the tweet that Emmy responded to me way back in season 1 when they go, traditionally we've always seemed to roll up to lands and roll the Brazilian team. So you know what happened? Furious sent them packing. So I think that's exactly what's going to happen here. People are going to look at Fluxo and say, can they do it? I don't know if they can. Navi's really good. You know, you still got Imperial. Is Fluxo deserve to be in the conversation? And Fluxo's going to say, absolutely, yes, we are. We're going to the final.
All right, that leaves the other semifinal match to then go over. This is the big one. This is what should be the final, but we've decided is the semifinal. It is Imperial going up against Navi. And going purely off vibes, I'm going to say Navi.
Going purely
Okay.
off of stats and recent history, I say Navi.
If you give me Navi Imperial, because remember mine was going to be Navi versus HSG, and if you
Right.
gave me Navi versus HSG, I was going to say HSG are going to upset them. But since you've given me Imperial versus Navi, I'm going to say Navi is going to finally get one over. The problem I have is Navi, and I talked about it the last time, there's a stage fright element here, right? With
Right.
Navi. They're very, very good, but they got off extremely slow at Dallas, right? They were so slow last year at Dallas, getting out of the blocks. Turned it on in map 2, great map 2, lost it, what was it, overtime or really close or something like that? Or maybe I think it was overtime in map 1, and then they were completely defeated, and they came out, the map 2 ran away with them very quickly. There's definitely an element where the team peaks and valleys throughout a best of 3 against this side, and
Yeah.
that's my only concern, because if they valley, Imperial will be good enough to get back to the final, and that is a danger for them. But it is something that I think with the roster change Imperial's made, and with just how stronger and stronger Navi seem to really be churning, that this is finally going to be the goose egg off the back. The other thing is they have beat this team in the traded league.
They've
They
beat
did,
them in a couple of things recently,
yeah,
I swear. It's
yeah,
in
twice.
fact I think Navi Javelins has beaten, well, at the time Pigeons, now Imperial. I think they've actually over the past 3 months beaten them more than they have lost to them. I
Yeah.
think they're
Yes,
net positive right now.
yeah,
And whilst they do get stage fright a little bit at LAN, I don't even want to say stage fright, they just don't feel as comfortable. I think with just the repetition of how much they have been winning recently, I think that will override the fact that they are on LAN and that there are maybe nerves. I just think they are so consistently winning at the moment that it doesn't matter the environment, they are just going to turn up.
I agree. I agree. That's a good point.
I'm in on that one. All right. Well, that gives us a final of Navi versus FlyQuest. And I'm gonna be very
Spicy
real. It's spicy. I'm gonna be very real with you guys. I think this is where if Navi can beat Imperial, it's gonna be Navi.
Yep.
They'll finally take the win. Interestingly, by the way,
I would
if
fancy either team that wins that semifinal, Navi or Imperial, to take it. I
Yeah.
wouldn't
Yeah.
fancy FlyQuest.
So-
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, so I mean, the interesting thing, I guess, you come to this is this will be the first final. If we come to this final, this will be the first final without Nigma / Pigeon / Imperial. They kind of bundle together as a group,
That's an insane thought.
which is crazy considering they've won literally every other single Impact tournament there has been at this point. Yeah, Navi, I guess, as the. Oh, you've got a point. You're holding something.
I do have a point I want to make.
Go for it.
And that is that if you gave me Fluxo for this final,
You would say Fluxo?
I would say the Brazilians are champs.
I could see
yeah.
So,
that.
Pox, you know what copium is, right?
Yes, and yes, there is a bit of that because I am totally in love with Fluxo. They're
I love
my
the
favorite
team.
They're my favorite team right now. Yes. And that's no disrespect for FlyQuest, but I've supported them back in their CLG days for years. But
I'm hearing disrespect.
I don't disrespect them. I just my thing is
You speak the truth. and
Here's
there's people that wanna hear it.
here's why I have a problem with FlyQuest even being in the final is because I thought it was a really tough pill to swallow to say they're going to win Group A, knowing who's in Group A. Then you want to take them a step further? I don't know. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with that. But I think Navi look really good, don't get me wrong, against Fluxo when we have seen them play on LAN. Fluxo have definitely been the second team to Navi, right? They haven't played them with Ana X. So I think you give Ana X that stage because you see Poppins. Everyone talked about Poppins, right? This player's so young. It's a LAN environment. How is she going to respond? Arguably the biggest reason why they knocked Nigma to the lower bracket, right? So it seems to be the exact opposite case of the stage, right? On Fluxos, they seem to just thrive under the pressure. So now you get these two forces coming together where one's thriving under the pressure, the other one's a bit shaky. And now you've picked up arguably the best rifler that's left in Brazil. That potential to beat them is definitely there, more so than in previous seasons, and I fancied them even more in previous seasons. So, but I do think if we are going with the bracket we chalked and it's FlyQuest versus Navi, I don't see a way FlyQuest get past Navi in a best of 3. I don't see a way FlyQuest would get past Navi in a best of 1. So, I mean, Navi, they say often, and I'm sure both of you have heard of this quip, but they say often you have to lose before you win, right?
Right.
Generally in sports, that's a very big, tell me a team that's lost more than Navi. Tell me a team that's gotten to a grand final more than
If
Navi
I
and
speak
not
now,
lost.
I am
and
in big trouble.
I prefer not to speak. But no, my point is though, like,
Covenant.
you know what I mean? Look at Navi. They've got the losing out of the way, according to that clip,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I don't blame you for picking Navi. I think it's a very solid pick. Go Brazil.
All right. Well, with
I love how we were talking about that, and we spent more time talking about Brazil than we did either of the two teams that we got in our
with
hypothetical.
everything, hold on. Okay. We're gonna move on because we are so over time. It's not even funny. But to summarize, congratulations to Navi for winning ESL Impact Season 5.
Watch this age horrifically.
I do not care.
Watch Let Her Cook win, and then we're just here like, well,
Listen,
They cooked.
these primers have all aged horrifically. You could have gone back and watched them. They have all aged very
We
poorly.
did all right with a few.
but this is the thing is with our hypothetical, all it takes is for one of those best of ones to go a different way,
Oh yeah.
and
Everything's
everything
ruined.
else
Oh, yeah.
changes.
Yep.
So
That's predictions,
and I've
baby.
already said like
You just
I
hate
genuinely
this. Yeah, you
think
just
that-
hate this, so you're trying to find some way to cope against it.
I do. Navi Javelins is going to win. Mark my words. But I every single matchup that doesn't involve Navi Javelins, I think is anyone's game.
All right.
Okay. That's fair.
Perfect. That is kind of where we'll leave it. The final mark of any episode of Brace for Impact is to ask what we are going to be watching. I can answer all 3 of what we're going to be watching because it's coming up this weekend. No, Benny's not watching it yet. He's not involved anymore. He's retired. ESL Impact Dallas. That's what we're going to be watching. We're going to be watching Dallas. So Affinity and I will actually be there. If you are around, come say hi to us. Benny will be sitting there crying because he'll miss the opportunity of a
I'm
lifetime.
gonna be sad.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I am gonna be watching, Parks.
Yeah. Oh,
We got
you
two.
and
We
your
got
soccer.
we got a game Saturday and the development team
It's
plays
football.
Sunday, so I will actually be at the football both days. But I will be giving
Big
you some time
fan.
to watch
Big
for sure.
fan. No, I just love it. Love it. Love it. Affinity, is there anything else you will be watching in the upcoming 2 weeks?
Well, I am lucky enough to be attending DreamHack Dallas, mostly thanks to you, Parks, but also as a content creator, which
Yes.
it blows my
Hilarious.
mind because I didn't think I was cool enough
This
for
is
a
this is
fancy
where the
lanyard.
vlog comes in. This is where we start vlogging.
Yeah, I've got to remember to film content, which is
Yeah.
going to be my biggest problem. I have zero dignity. I'll film it anyway. I don't care. I just
Yeah.
got to remember to do it. But no, I'm going to be watching a lot of Impact, but I'm also just going to be around all of Dallas. I am Dallas is going on. I'm really excited to see the first Overwatch competitive series championship series. The Face It took over the Overwatch esports scene, and that's
Yes, they
happening as
did.
well. I've been playing a lot of Overwatch recently, so I'm really excited to see that. And a friend of mine almost qualified to play there, so
Wow.
watch a bit of that. Yeah, don't worry, it surprised us as well, Parks. It surprised us as well. Yeah,
Is there a main event as well for like a main CS, like a tier one
yeah,
CS?
I am
Yeah, so
Dallas.
I Am Dallas
Oh,
is
okay.
happening. So it's actually I Am Dallas is happening in the big arena, and then they last year they had it over like pretty far away was the Impact one. Like you had to walk pretty long way. They've got it basically
They're right
where
next
like
to each other.
right around the corner is ESL Impact. So it's like it's gonna be so good because I think they realize like CS players will just gravitate to more CS. So when
Yeah.
I Am Dallas kind of spills out like it did last year, that whole
to
back
Impact, which
area
is
is
nice.
just gonna be full. Like it's gonna be great. Basically where
Talking-
the BYOC kind of like where Rocket League was,
Yeah.
and on the other side of the BYOC, that's where it's gonna be.
Talking of things I'm going to watch, I also have a 10 straight hour flight. So if anyone has any recommendations, be serious for me to watch, please God
Sleep.
send them my way.
We'll
Sleep.
get you. We'll get you. Yeah, sleep is a good one.
That doesn't sound like me.
We'll
but yeah.
we'll hook you up. We'll hook you up with some stuff. I know international
Please
flights
do.
you can watch like Tulsa King or something. That's actually what I watched on the way to Valencia was Tulsa
About to
King.
watch the entire Band of Brothers miniseries, by the way.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That's
as
a
well.
really good one. Yeah. Anyway, listen. Big thanks to Affinity for coming on. Super
didn't do
grateful to
much,
have a
though.
special guest.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
And such a great, knowledgeable one. Parks, thank you so much.
course.
And thank you to everyone on the YouTube or listening on Spotify. Can't forget our Spotify listeners. This has been episode 44 of Brace for Impact. We'll be back with 45, the Dallas Review Show. Go Brazil. Until then, take care.